Hey look, another project. 1987 MR2 with less rust than the other one, but not no rust. There's still a lot of rust. But this one won't break in half like the other one did. Getting this thing here was a bit of an adventure. I towed it. First, I tried to use my winch and it burnt out my battery. So I have a small winch mounted to one of my hitches. It's just a little 3,000 pound like ATV winch, not really something you'd put on a truck, but useful for dragging stuff into trailers. And the idea was to use this to put the MR2 on the trailer. And even though this isn't really meant for pulling cars, an MR2 doesn't weigh that much, and it was rolling. It wasn't like I had to drag it. But while we were pulling, it just stopped working, and I thought the winch burned out. But what I was doing is I was powering it with this battery pack, and it has died. I think a fuse inside here probably popped, but so we'll have to go look at that. But the previous owner was nice enough to get his side-by-side and use a winch on it to finish pulling the MR2 onto the trailer for me. Thankfully, the old owner was very helpful, helped me get it onto the trailer, and then on the way back, the trailer running lights wouldn't work. The signals and brakes did, but the running lights didn't work. But I had some magnetic lights in the truck that I threw on and got it home. You can see that the signal lights and brake lights work, but the marker lights don't. And I have to drive in the dark, so that's not safe. Thankfully, I come prepared. And I carry some magnetic lights, so at least I have those. I only have two, unfortunately, but I'm going to stay to the right lane as much as I can. So I have that one right in the middle, and I have that one on the left side, so hopefully people behind me can see me. This isn't the best setup, but it's a lot better than having no lights at all. I'm going to add more magnet lights to my truck just in case this happens again. And then I had a hard time getting in the yard because it's a very hard angle to get a trailer here in the yard. So I had my brother-in-law come help me, and we only broke the fence a little bit. Now it doesn't run, and the previous owner didn't know why, because just like I did, he bought someone else's project. So we'll have to sort that out, but it's complete. Just about. There's some trim missing. It's got all the bits. The lights are in good shape. The exhaust is there. It's got the right wheels. This interior is pristine. Ignore that, don't worry about that. I'm sorry, it's not a manual. We can fix that later. But the rest of the interior is pretty good shape. Just a couple cracks in the dash, and that's it. But I don't have the key, because the previous owner didn't have the key. Now, with newer cars, you can go to the dealership with the VIN and proof of ownership and get a key cut. But this is too old. So, a trick on these old Toyotas is the passenger side lock cylinder actually has a number printed on it that is the key code to cut a new key. So first we have to get this door apart. So there's a few screws in this. There's one here, there's a couple down here. I believe there's one under this knob. And the rest of this is mostly just held on by clips, so you just pull this off. But this is a door crank, which you have to get off. The way you get these off is you turn it so it's facing down. And it might be hard to see, but there's a little brass thing there. There's a clip. So if you can get a thin flathead screwdriver or one of these hook guys behind it, you can kind of pull it off. Be careful because it wants to pop and fly away. There we go. See? I should just be able to pull that off. Yep. Now I can go pull the rest of this off. There were actually some hidden screws here, here, and here. But now that they're out, it seems to be coming off. At this point, with all the clips out, now this is what's holding it on. You don't want to pull straight out because you'll pull the trim off, so you want to go up. Okay, so I got the doorknob out with the lock cylinder. I had to take two bolts off the back, 10 millimeters, kind of hard to get it inside the door, and disconnect a bunch of these little guys. And then I actually had to unscrew the latch just to get enough room to wiggle this out. But now I'm going to take this to a dealership because there's a code on the side of this, which I'm not going to show you, that will make the keys for this car. So I'll take it to them, and the reason I'm taking the whole thing rather than just the code is because if I take the whole thing, then they can test the key in this lock after I get it to make sure it's correct. Look at how munted this battery is. I've literally never seen that happen before. So it's unknown when the last time this thing ran. The guy I bought it from had it 8 months and never had it running, and he bought it when it wasn't running, and we don't know how long that guy didn't have it running. So I need to do some prep before I try to start this engine. So one of the important things is that the spark plugs were out of it when I got it, and I don't know how long they've been out of it. So I need to make sure there's nothing in the cylinders. I've got the spark plug wires back in there right now, just keep more stuff from getting in, but I'm going to take all that out. All I've got here is a shop vac with a piece of tubing attached to the end. So I'm just going to stick this down each of the spark plug wells and vacuum out the cylinders. I'm mostly worried about hard stuff, so I'm not too worried about liquids. I'm mostly worried about solid stuff that will damage the cylinders. The reason I'm not worried about liquids is because, again, it hasn't been running in a while, so it's a good idea to put some oil down the cylinders to get everything oiled. So after I vacuum it out, I'm going to put some Marvel mystery oil down the cylinders, and then I'm going to crank it with the spark plugs out so that oil can come back out and it doesn't hydrolock, to make sure any liquid, including that oil or any water that might be in there, has a place to escape to and doesn't damage the pistons. And then after that, we'll try cranking it for real. Okay, so these two cylinders had a red fluid in it, which I'm assuming is actually Marvel mystery oil. And these two cylinders were empty, which is either a good sign, because that means we'll put oil in the cylinders and they won't be rusty, or a bad sign, because it means they put oil in all 4 cylinders and those 2 are empty, which could mean a hole in the pistons. But we don't know yet, so we're going to put some Marvel down ourselves, wait a bit. I'll change the oil while I wait, and then we'll see what happens. It occurs to me the fluid that came out of there was quite thick, so it's probably actually transmission fluid, which is also appropriate for this use. The reason why I prefer using Marvel is not because of any mystical properties, it's just because it's thinner, which means it's more likely to seep past rings and whatnot and lubricate the whole cylinder. Transmission fluid or diesel even, as long as it's oil. Okay, I'm going to let it sit for a bit. I'm going to give this an oil change because who knows when that's been done. So I don't know how well you can see that, but that there is a hole in the oil pan made when a connecting rod met the pan. So this engine's toast, which I kind of figured. It's been through multiple owners who have all taken on as a project and didn't keep it, so that's usually how these things go. I'm not too upset. I kind of expected this to happen, so this is now a spring project. I'm going to be researching engine replacement options. But that's how it goes when you buy old projects. At least this one is much more structurally sound than the other one was, so it's much more worthy of an engine swap.